It's significant to note that Anerkannte is commonly referred to by some scholars as the doctrine of relative pluralism. Pluralism and the relative nature of expression have long been held as defining characteristics of Indian culture. India prides itself in being a secular country that honours all communities and traditions. Secularism in Europe was born out of the need to separate the church from interfering in the state. And in America, the opposite. The concern was the state interfering with the church. In India, secular really means that all religions should be recognised equally. And it's therefore a different concept to the use of the word that we're used to in the West. India is the birthplace of 4 major world religions, namely Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, and Sikhism, and has easily integrated many other religious communities. Hinduism is, of course, incredibly pluralistic, including a vast pantheon of gods which can be worshipped in various combinations and with varying frequency based upon personal, family, and community preferences, as well as particular needs brought about by the seasons, life events, astrology, etc. However, religious plurality is only one facet of India's nearly all-encompassing pluralism. Ainsley Embry, a famed US Indologist who has taught at prestigious institutions both in India and in America, has identified 3 factors which have defined India as a pluralistic society throughout history. 1. Groups within the framework of the parent political unit have relatively autonomous existences, i.e. they are not subsections of a larger society, but rather constitute larger society. 2. There will be a relativism regarding what is good or bad, rather than a common vision of what is good for all. And finally, that groups will have their own lifestyles, that while related in many ways to those of other groups, will include aspects such as differences in language, religion, and culture, so great as normally only those expected in different political societies. Indian civilization is considered highly context sensitive. A.K. Ramanujan considered context sensitivity a key to understanding the Indian way of thinking. Context, or background information and underlying circumstances, often determine communications and behaviours. In India, that ultimately means the appropriate ways of being and acting are relative to the prevailing circumstances. It also means conversations can end up being more deductive than inductive. The key information normally comes at the end of the conversation rather than right at the front. Indian psychoanalyst and author Sudhir Kakar has said that an individual can never know the configuration of all these factors in an absolute sense, nor even significantly influence them. Nor is there a book or its authoritative interpreters like a church, which can help by removing doubts on how an individual must act in each conceivable situation. Right and wrong then are relative, depending on its specific context. Every action can be right or wrong. Remembering the quote from Jane Robinson in week 1 that the frustrating thing about India is that whatever you can rightly say about India, the opposite is also true. Well, following this famous statement, a number of scholars and visitors alike have framed India in terms of its contradictions. However, perhaps it would be more prudent to look at these vast differences less as contradictions and more as examples of the relativity and plurality that pervade Indian cultures.